All right. Well, from the slush-caked shores of the North Saskatchewan River, right here in scenic Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, this is your host Scott Roos, and you are listening to Down to the River. And my guest today is none other than Brothers Comatose vocalist extraordinaire and also solo artist, solo musician now, Ben Morrison. Ben, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Not bad. Well, I'm particularly flattered that you're giving me a call because, from what I understand, you just got back from your honeymoon. Holy smokes, man! Congratulations.
I did, yeah. Thank you. It was 3 weeks of awesomeness, really. And we just got back late last night, so uh, yeah, finally made it back to California, and made myself a cup of coffee, proper like, and I'm feeling good now.
There's nothing like a good cup of coffee, I'll have to say. Years ago, I used to host this show where I pretended I was in a coffee shop, even though I wasn't, and I would literally ask an artist what kind of coffee they preferred.
Wait, that was what you did on your show?
Well, for the interview segment, yes.
Oh, nice. Or are you asking me that right now?
Well, we might as well go there since I've already brought that up. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you mentioned that you were back for a real cup of coffee, so we might as well hear what a real cup of coffee is.
Oh yeah. Well, I like to make myself basically like mini Americanos, with but I put full on whipping cream in it and a little scoop of coconut oil also.
Oh wow, that
And if
sounds
I'm getting
delicious.
real fancy, I'll blend it up and then make it all frothy and everything. But that's only like next level.
Yeah. Now I know you guys are from San Francisco originally, so I mean, is there a specific type of coffee served in San Francisco? I mean, what you just described is that did you learn how to do that in Cali?
Not. I mean, I guess so, but there's not like a specific drink for the Bay Area. I mean, I know that, a lot of Bay Area people kind of pride themselves on their, third wave, super, what do you call it? Light roasted coffee, which I'm not like a huge fan of because it's pretty bitter.
Yeah.
I kind of like the dark roasted stuff, but, you know, I find good coffee everywhere I go now. It seems kind of like it's spreading out further and further too, because you can kind of get it anywhere you travel these days.
That's true. That's true. Well, now, I'm sure this is a question you often get asked, but I mean, your work in Brothers Comatose, I mean, there's a pretty distinct sort of bluegrass rootsy feel to it. But when I think of San Francisco in particular, I think of, Metallica and Slayer and all of those great Bay Area bands. So, I mean, how does an aspiring, sort of bluegrass roots musician get such a start like you guys have had in San Francisco?
Well, I mean that is a it's a great question. I mean, there's been a lot. I guess San Francisco Bay Area has been known for like a lot more than just like the hard rock Metallica Slayer stuff too. But Grateful Dead and Jefferson Airplane and all those old '60s and early '70s bands and stuff.
That's
I guess they
true.
were kind of an influence as well. And honestly, I don't know personally where that connection came from. We just used to play acoustic guitar around the house when I was younger, and my brother. Let me back up a little bit. My parents are musicians, and they used to have these music parties at our house when we were
Right.
younger. And their friends were kind of like folk musicians, so they'd bring over fiddles and mandolins and banjos and stuff like that. And one day, a friend of my parents left a banjo behind accidentally, and my brother got a hold of it, and we started just jamming. I would play acoustic guitar and he'd play banjo, and we just kind of like play the tunes that we knew, but on those instruments. And it was birthed from that mostly, and from that we kind of started digging into our influences at the time, which was basically like rock bands and like
Yeah.
what they would listen to was like old blues and folk and bluegrass and stuff like that. Even like the Grateful Dead had their Old and in the Way side project, which was a bluegrass band, and it was so there has been that stuff around this area for a while.
Yeah,
And that
that's
was
true.
a super long answer for your question, right?
Well, I mean, I guess I would be remiss if I didn't mention the whole Haight Ashbury scene. And of course, if you go to San Francisco, you have to wear flowers in your hair and this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, and we lived on Haight Street, my brother and I, when the band was just starting to get going. We lived there for kind of a long time, actually, right on Haight, like in the thick of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would imagine that area is probably long past its hippie glory days, though, eh?
It is definitely. I mean, it's kind of like the skeleton of what it used to be, but the dream is still alive. Like you go there, and there are definitely still a bunch of hippies everywhere. It's just they kind of have morphed slightly from what they used to be back in the '60s.
Right, right. Well, what generation are your parents from now? I mean, do they go back to that '60s era themselves?
Not. I think that was like just before their time. I mean, they were kind of into that scene, but I think they kind of developed a little bit later.
Right.
I think they were just a little young when that was all happening, in like '67 and '69.
Yeah.
But they were definitely, into like the folk scene that kind of came after that.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, of course, now, there is a solo record that's come out fairly recently, but before we get into that, 2018 seems to be the last time that the Brothers Comatose put anything out significantly in terms of output. And of course, that was Ink, Dust, and Luck. I mean, did the lineup change have anything to do with this sort of hiatus from recording, or are you just kind of on hold? I mean, I think you're still doing things, but in terms of the recording, I guess is what I'm getting at.
It definitely had an effect on the output. I mean, basically, two longtime members left the band pretty much at the same time. And,
yeah.
And the remaining of us, my brother, myself, and Phil, our fiddle player, we kind of just decided to like step back for a minute because we've been touring our asses off for 11 years, and without a significant break, ever.
Yeah.
So, and you're kind of like the calendar is the Lord to you, like you are. You have to go with the calendar and like what offers are on the table, so you can't really control your own your time basically. So we kind of decided to take a little break and just kind of step back from everything for a minute and like reassess the situation, and which kind of allowed me to do a side project thing
That's
that
right.
I've been talking about doing for a while, but also. Pretty quickly, actually quicker than we had expected, we found new band members and we kind of started getting going again sooner than we had expected. And so we started, it takes a while to like get people up to speed on all the songs. We have, 4 albums out and stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
just where you feel comfortable playing shows in front of people.
Sure.
You want to come back and you want it to be awesome. And you want your fans to be stoked on the new lineup and stuff. So we got them locked down, and then we've been, I guess to answer your question, we've been working on a new record. We actually recorded a 4-song covers EP like a few months back, and that'll be released in the next few months.
Nice.
And then we are going into the studio to record in early March our next album.
Wow. Well, that's very exciting.
Yeah.
I was just thinking as you were talking about that, I mean, you mentioned how, you had sort of 11 years pretty much of the same dudes. So, how do you go about bringing in 2 guys and bringing them up to speed, as you were saying?
I mean, it's such a difficult thing because when you start a band, you start a band basically because you and your friends want to play music. Or I mean, that's maybe the most organic way to do it. Is like me and my brother were playing music in our living room, and then we called my buddy Gio, who plays bass. I'm like, hey, I know you play bass, right? Do you want to come and jam with us? And then and then slowly but surely we kind of called some other friends and then made a band. And when that is interrupted, you want to find people that you are not only good musicians, of course, but like almost more important than that is the hang. and
Yeah,
you want
that's
to
true.
be, because you spend a lot of time with these people, and it's supposed to be a joyful thing, right? Like creating music, playing music for people. At least it is for us, and we want to maintain that. And like, you're hanging out with people in the van all day long,
Yes, yes.
and stuff. So if you want to make sure that the hang is as good as it possibly can be. So, and also they have to be good at their instruments, and there has to be like a musical connection also. So finding all those things is so hard to do, but we got really lucky, and we found a couple guys that like fit the bill perfectly, and it's worked out great.
Now, you've got 4 albums of materials, you said. So, I mean, you've brought these new guys in. Do you find yourself, hearing new things in the way they're interpreting the songs, or are like how strict are you in terms of the arrangements now that you've got different entities in the band?
We're not like stuck to it. We have our format of tunes usually. We're not like it's not like open-ended like jam band style, really, I guess. But we have our song structures, but nothing is. It's not like super locked in. They're within that formula, So there was definitely some room for interpretation, and that's been probably the most exciting thing, just because you play a song 1,000 times, and you can get sick of it.
Yeah.
but it's really cool to have a new take on it, or like somebody trying some new stuff in there, and that has been the most exciting thing, is like a reinvigoration of energy, because getting to play these songs for people, but having us genuinely be excited about it is a really cool thing, and that definitely becomes a problem after playing 1,000 shows or 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
However, I guess it's been almost 12 at this point, but because music is a joyful thing for us, and we want it to be authentic when we're doing that for people, when we're playing for people. And if it's not, then it becomes a drag, and then that's a terrible place to be. And I feel like the audience can pick up on that. And I don't know, you just want to feel like you're providing something for people, whatever it is that hopefully that joy that you're feeling when you're playing it. And if it's not there, they're not feeling it either. So
That's true.
So that's been great for us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one song that I really enjoy of yours is Cedarwood Pines from, your most recent full-length Ink, Dust, and Luck. I mean, just briefly, what's the song about, the arrangements, any, sort of things of note that you'd like to say about the track specifically?
I can't speak to that 100% because my brother wrote that song. So you have to get him on the phone to,
Snake Eyes.
to talk about what it actually means. But I love that song. It's super fun to play. And yeah, I really enjoy playing it, but also the recording of it was pretty fun too. We got a producer. This was like the first time we'd ever worked with a producer for that last album.
Yeah.
His name's John Vanderslice, and we recorded to like analog 2-inch tape, and that one was particularly cool just because we tried some different stuff with it, like some like little distortions on the acoustic guitar, and just got to mess around with it, and like did some echo chamber vocal stuff, and yeah, it was super fun.
Well, I'm glad you kind of, mentioned, old school techniques, because of course August 30th, your solo record, Old Technology, dropped. Now here you talked about how, this little hiatus that the Brothers Comatose took gave you a chance to do this. So, I guess the most obvious question to start is, how does working exclusively on your own material differ from what you do in the Brothers Comatose?
It's harder to do. I mean, it's free in one way because you make all the decisions, right? So you don't have to like argue with somebody and be like, no, it's better if it's this way, or the chorus needs to be twice as long, or blah blah blah. Just dumb stuff you end up talking about as a band. But also, it's at the same time that is nice to have, like that back and forth kind of thing.
Yeah.
So honestly, it's just like it was a totally different angle for me, and it was kind of like a reset button for me also when, you know, like I was saying, the two guys left the band. Like I just needed to do something completely different for a minute instead of focusing on Brothers Comatose. Like I just
Right.
like I want to play, like I want to get like a rock band together and record, and you know, I just want to, I'll just like write the songs. I had a few songs already. I even took like two Brothers Comatose songs I had written, and we kind of like flipped them on their head and did a more like rock band style, which was also super fun. So it was really cathartic and freeing, and also a little like disorienting because, like I was saying, it's you get used to having the opinion of your musical cohorts,
Yeah.
I guess. And that's nice to have sometimes.
Yeah, well, now, you know, you mentioned that you did a couple of Brothers Comatose songs on your solo record. One is, of course, Sugar Please, which on the Brothers Comatose record was sort of like this, you know, Dolly and Porter style, you know,
Yeah.
duet thing you had going. But in Sugar Please, it's sort of more this kind of intimate, reflective piece. I mean, that was a conscious decision. Like you didn't, you know, maybe think, oh, you know, let's see what maybe a rock singer would do in a duet type format. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's interesting because I mean, I wrote it without the intention of doing it as a duet, and it was actually my then girlfriend, now wife's idea. She's like, "Oh, you could probably do the song as a duet." I think I was like just playing it for her one day, and then
Uh-huh.
she started singing along with me because she's a singer and musician as well.
Right.
And we're like, "Oh man, it sounds pretty good as a duet." So Nikki Bloom has been friends for a long time, and we had done a duet, you know, on an earlier album. So I called her up to do this one as well, and it worked out great for that. But
Yeah.
also, yeah, exactly. Like it's more contemplative as like a solo piece, kind of. And I was interested in just doing it the way that it was intended when it was written, I guess,
Uh-huh.
because it had morphed from that original idea. And so, yeah, it was cool to like flip it on its head. And also, it's nice to be able to play that without when there's no singer to be able to sing the song, actually.
Right.
You know, to duet with, I should say.
Yeah. Now there's a couple of pretty heavy tracks on here too. Like there's Feels Like the Devil, which is, you know, it could almost pass as, you know, metal-ish, and also, you know, Pile It Up, you kind of break out the distortion. So I felt that, you know, those were two interesting tracks to include on a solo record, because I mean, those are way out of the box compared to what you do in Brothers Comatose.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, in Brothers Comatose, we all used to be in rock bands back in the day. Almost all of us, and like before we went folky on it, you know. So that was always kind of what I had started on, is more rock based stuff back in the day, and so part of it, yeah, like it was, like I was saying, it was like a reset button for me, and it was kind of fun to break out an
Yeah.
electric guitar and turn up an amp real loud after just playing acoustic guitar for so long. So,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
Feels Like the Devil is the other Brothers Comatose song that we redid and kind of made more rockin'. So that was pretty fun too.
That's awesome. Well, listen, I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I mean, you know, I really like those, you know, I mean, not, I like the whole record in general, of course, but I mean, you've got some really nice kind of contemplative tracks on here. You know, Molly on My Mind, for instance. What can you tell me about that one?
That's about doing. Okay, so that's about going on a cruise ship with a bunch of hippies in the Caribbean and doing drugs and forgetting all of the amazing stuff that happened, and then having your friends remind you about it, and then being really bummed that you forgot everything that happened. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, now you mentioned that, Brothers Comatose, of course, are getting ready to release a few new things, but I mean, in terms of this solo record, is there going to be some dates and a little bit of touring around it that happens? Has there already been some stuff?
You're saying Brothers Comatose tour dates?
No, I'm talking about tour dates for Old Technology, actually.
So it starts with West Coast, then in late March and early April goes to the East Coast, and then we tour back from the East Coast. We have a ton of dates for my solo band on the calendar, and I just got off the phone with our manager, who also manages Brothers Comatose, and
Right.
we have a ton of Brothers Comatose dates in the works also.
Excellent.
So keep an eye out for all that too.
Yeah, well, I mean, are you guys gonna make a little trip up, to Canada?
I sure hope so. It's been a few years. I mean, I think the last time we were up there was for the Winnipeg Folk Festival.
Oh, nice.
Um,
That's a good one.
and that was super fun. And we did a couple other things while we were up there, but it's just kind of hard for us to make it up that way unless there's like a festival or a big show or something like that
That's true.
that'll kind of like pay to get us there, and then once we're there, we can do some other stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's a big country and there's a lot of miles between major centers, which is probably very difficult when you're stuck in a van, logging the miles, so to speak.
Hey man, I'm still trying to do some cross Canada tour like they did in Festival Express. So if you have anybody trying to put something like that together, just let me know.
Right on, man. Well, listen, Ben, I really appreciate your time here with me today. Thanks for coming down to the river with me today, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Right on. Have a good one.
Hey, you too.
Bye
See ya.
bye.